Welcome back to the Roundtable, and guys, if you were like me and thought 2020 couldn't possibly get any worse, this is as low as it gets, well, today we were proven horribly wrong. That is because in shocking and saddening news, the two creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Michael Dante DiMartino and Bryan Konietzko, announced that they will no longer be involved with the live-action Avatar project. This is crushing news, as this project was announced all the way back in 2018 and built up a fair amount of hype, all of the fans believing we were finally getting a faithful live-action Avatar series. But the news today basically means that dream is dead. The two creators made individual statements on their Instagrams. They were both beautifully written and extremely respectable. I mean, these are professionals here. Michael Dante DiMartino said in an open letter addressed to the Avatar fans, "Many of you have been asking me for updates about the Avatar live-action Netflix series. I can finally tell you that I am no longer involved with the project. In June of this year, after 2 years of development work, Bryan Konietzko and I made the difficult decision to leave the production. When Bryan and I signed onto the project in 2018, we were hired as executive producers and showrunners. In a joint announcement for the series, Netflix said that it was committed to honoring our vision for this retelling and to supporting us on creating the series. And we expressed how excited we were for the opportunity to be at the helm. Unfortunately, things did not go as we had hoped. Look, things happen. Productions are challenging. Unforeseen events arise. Plans have to change. And when those things have happened at other points during my career, I try to be like an air nomad and adapt. I do my best to go with the flow, no matter what obstacle is put in my way. But even an air nomad knows when it's time to cut their losses and move on. I started to reevaluate what is truly important in my life and what I wanted to do with what's left of it. I took some advice from Uncle Iroh. I looked inward and started asking myself the big question, who are you and what do you want? I also sought wisdom from Stoic philosophers who are big on differentiating between what is within our control and what isn't. I realized I couldn't control the creative direction of the series, but I could control how I responded. So I chose to leave the project. It was the hardest professional decision I've ever had to make, and certainly not one that I took lightly, but it was necessary for my happiness and creative integrity. And who knows? Netflix's live-action adaptation of Avatar has the potential to be good. It might turn out to be the show many of you end up enjoying, but what I can be certain about is that whatever version ends up on screen, it will not be what Bryan and I envisioned or intended to make. I also want to be clear that this doesn't mean the end of my involvement in the Avatar universe. These stories and characters are important to me, and the renewed interest and excitement in Avatar and Korra have been inspiring to see. Writing this letter has left me with a very heavy heart. I know many of you will be disappointed and frustrated by the news. I get it. I share your disappointment and frustration. I also recognize this creative setback is small compared to the problems we're all facing as a society right now. Thankfully, Iroh offered some wisdom for that too. Sometimes life is like this dark tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but if you keep moving, you will come to a better place. Maybe we all keep moving on and come to a better place. Thank you for reading and for your continued enthusiasm for the Avatar universe. With gratitude, Michael Dante DiMartino." Okay, as sad as this news is, that was like the most well-written departure letter I have ever read. Round of applause. There were Avatar metaphors in it. It was beautiful. But this doesn't make the news any less sad, especially for the reasons he listed. As respectful as he was about the process and as open as he was to the trials and tribulations of making a live-action series, they wanted to get across their creative vision, and something stopped that from happening. It seems like they didn't get the control that they wanted that Netflix seemed to promise. And the line that hit the hardest is that whatever does drop is not what they envisioned or planned. This is extra sensitive to all Avatar fans, and I'm sure the creators more than anyone else, because they've been through this before with the live-action Avatar movie that is now infamous for being bad because they didn't give the creators creative control and hired some other director. This is a scary situation because it seems like history could possibly repeat itself. But this wasn't the only statement dropped. The other co-creator, Bryan Konietzko, also made a statement on their departure, saying, "Before I get to the crux of this statement, I would like to make it clear that I am very aware and appreciative to the fact that I am in an exceedingly fortunate position, and that the following issues are indeed good problems to have, even more so now that we are in the grips of a global pandemic and a cratering economy which have left millions unemployed. From that crucial context, here's the big news for my little world. Michael DiMartino and I have recently chose to leave Netflix's live-action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the series he and I created together in 2002. We will have no involvement in the project moving forward. This is probably the most difficult decision I have ever made, but there's no doubt in my mind it was absolutely the right choice. When Netflix brought me on board to run this series alongside Mike 2 years ago, they made a very public promise to support our vision. Unfortunately, there was no follow-through on that promise. Though I got to work with some great individuals, both on Netflix's side and on our own small development team, the general handling of the project created what I felt was a negative and unsupportive environment. To be clear, this was not a simple matter of us not getting our way. Mike and I are both collaborative people. We did not need all of the ideas to come from us. As long as we felt those ideas were in line with the spirit and integrity of Avatar, we would have happily embraced them. However, we ultimately came to the belief that we would not be able to meaningfully guide the direction of the series. Though I am profoundly disappointed by how things turned out, there are wonderfully talented people who are still working on the series, some of whom Mike and I personally hired and got to know well during our time on the project. We worked very hard together towards a shared dream of how special this adaptation could be. I want to see them all employed, and I hope they get the chance to do their best work on the series. Perhaps the team that remains might still be able to make something fans of the original series and an entirely new audience can enjoy. By and large, I have an incredibly charmed career, and I'm very grateful for it. And I'm enormously lucky for the amazing global community of fans that have grown around the shows Mike and I have created and run together. I will continue to be deeply involved in the Avatar universe, telling the stories my partner and I want to tell in the way we want to tell them. I will put my time, energy, and talent towards the projects that give me the most fulfillment and where I'm afforded trust and respect. Life is too short to do otherwise. These are painful to read. Look, the whole reason we were so hyped about this Netflix adaptation is because it finally seemed like the creators were getting to tell their live-action Avatar story. That was the biggest draw. And after 2 years of development, it seems like none of that happened. And from the tone of these letters, it's not like this was some petty gut decision, but something they mulled over and deeply contemplated on. One thing I know that holds true is that both creators talked about how there are talented people working on these projects, and that there's still hope that this Netflix series could be good. But I don't want just a good live-action Avatar, I wanted to see their vision. After all, it was their vision that led to the success of Avatar in the first place. I don't know what went on behind the scenes, I only know what they said in these letters, but it just sounds like an incredibly frustrating situation, especially, like I said, because they've been through this before. This was our absolute last chance to get a faithful live-action Avatar series, and it just didn't come together. So now that this news dropped, we have to ask ourselves, what now? Well, Netflix hasn't canceled the series yet. As far as we know, it's still in development. I don't know how far in development, like they haven't even announced a cast or anything. I don't know if that's private or public, but either way, this definitely shook up production a little bit. I don't know if they had other showrunners on backup or if they're all scrambling to get everything together right now, but either way, the two showrunners departing the series is gonna slow things down a little bit. Not to mention the fact that no matter how respectable and professional these resignation letters are, this is still really bad press for the series, as a lot of fans will now look at this Netflix adaptation as another situation where the two creators got shorted of their creative vision. And while I think they could still make a successful live action series, I feel like at this point, it won't be groundbreaking or revolutionary in any way. Not to sound too cynical, but it feels like all we can hope for at this point is just for it not to be bad. Regardless, this isn't the end of Avatar or anything, this is just one project. And not to mention a project that's very far from anything in the Avatar universe anyways. So far with the animation and the comics, everything Avatar has been airtight. We still have all the comics, the original series, and Korra, which is coming onto Netflix very soon. Not to mention the fact that the creators are open to working on Avatar stories in the future. So I doubt this is their last chance to have their hands on anything Avatar. If anything, like I said before, we could see an Avatar renaissance. But at the end of the day, I just have immense respect for Bryan and Michael for standing by their creative vision and doing so in an extremely respectable way. They will always have their artistic integrity, and I know whatever they work on next will be amazing. But that being said, I want to know what you guys think about all of this. Did this news crush you like it did me? Let us know in those comments down below, or tweet to us at Roundtable Vids, or me at @StretcherNemo. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the Roundtable for more incredible cartoon content. So always guys, I'm Nemo, this is a news video, and I will see you next time. Peace.